In this problem, we need to solve the equation 3x squared plus x equals 10. Well, what type of equation is it? If you look, the highest power on any of the x's is a 2, so it's a quadratic equation. So first of all, we're going to try and factor it, and then if that doesn't work, we'll use the quadratic formula. So let's look at our steps in solving a quadratic equation by factoring. Step 1 is we need to write it in standard form. That means everything written on one side in descending order and 0 on the other side. Do I have that in this case here? No, I do not have 0 on this side. So that's the first thing I'm going to have to do is subtract 10 from both sides. So I'm going to get 3x squared plus x minus 10 equals 0. So now I have it in standard form. Now the next step is to factor. And to factor it, what we need to do is, since we have it in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, we can find a, b, and c. A is the coefficient of the x squared. B is the coefficient of the x, and don't forget there's really a 1 in front of that x. So B is 1 and C is negative 10. So we multiply A times C. I get 3 times negative 10, which is negative 30. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to B that is positive 1. Since they multiply to a negative, the signs are different. Since they add to a positive, the bigger one has to be the positive. So I could have negative 1 times 30 that multiply to negative 30, but negative 1 plus 30 definitely isn't the number I'm looking for. This table might take a while, so I'm going to put it on pause. So I completed my table. This one didn't work, this one didn't work, but then finally, negative 5 times 6 multiplied to negative 30, negative 5 plus 6 add up to 1, which is what I'm looking for up here. On many of these problems, you won't need to do the table because you could just look for two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to 1, and these numbers might come to you very quickly. I'm just showing you the table in case you get stuck finding factors. So now what I want to do is these numbers here, they're not my factors, they're what I'm going to break this middle term down into. So rewriting the equation, I'm going to get 3x squared, and instead of plus 1x, I'm going to write minus 5x plus 6x minus 10 equals 0. So you can see all I did was rewrote this middle term here as negative 5x plus 6x. The reason we do that is we want to factor by grouping. So what do the first two have in common? I think the only thing they have is an x. And if I pull an x out of 3x squared minus 5x, I'm just going to get 3x minus 5. Now we bring down the middle sign, the plus. And what do the last two have in common? I think only a 2. So 2 divides into 6x 3x times, 2 divides into negative 10, and it's going to give me 3x minus 5. So now factoring by grouping only works if this binomial is the same as this. Are they the same? Yes. So I pull the 3x minus 5 as my common binomial factor. It goes in front. And what does it leave behind? X plus 2. So I finally factored. And remember, how can you check every factoring problem? By foiling it out to see if you land up with this equation here. So now we set each factor equal to 0. So 3x minus 5 equals 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. So add 5 to both sides. I get 3x equals 5. Divide both sides by 3. I'm running out of room, sorry. I get x equals 5/3. And this one here, subtract 2 from both sides, I get x equals -2. So there are my solutions to this quadratic equation. And if you wanted to check it, you take each of them individually, plug it into the original equation to see if you get a true statement.